Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tausif, and I'm back with a new live stream. The time right now is 11:16, sorry, 11:18 p.m. This is February the 3rd of 2026. It feels like it's going to be taking some time for us to get used to 2026. Although we are into February, the month of January is gone, but still, at times I feel like I'm going to end up saying 2025 and not 2026. So, anyway, uh, my friends, back in August of 2025, that's right, I'm talking about August of last year, I had published a podcast episode. That's right. My podcast, for those who have not had a chance to listen to it, my podcast is called Explore and Engage with Anam. And the episode that I'm referring to, that episode was titled Battle in the Buckeye State, a Democrat's Attempt to Make a Political Comeback. That's right. So obviously I'm talking about Ohio. Now, before we move forward, I would ask you, if anyone's here from Ohio, if you're watching this, you gotta let me know if you are from Ohio, because if you are, then I would like to hear your input on this issue that I'm going to be discussing today. I'm going to be talking about Ohio, politics in Ohio, election in Ohio. So if you're from Ohio, let me know. Kay Cooper is here from the great state of Texas. Kay Cooper, great to see you. Salerno is here. Salerno, good to see you, Salerno. By the way, Salerno, please remind me which state you are from, Salerno. Please do so. Z is also over here. Z is from Wisconsin, right? La Crosse, maybe? La Crosse, right. I think so, yep. But anyone watching this who's from Ohio, I do know for a fact that we have friends in this community from Ohio. And so if you're one of them, please write that in the live chat. My friends, I do feel. Salerno is from New Jersey. All right, thank you, Salerno. Thanks for, um, sharing that info. So we got Texas, we got New Jersey, we got Wisconsin represented in the live chat, and hopefully more people will be joining. So, my friends, I feel that I need to talk about Ohio again. This time through a live stream. Back in August of 2025, I talked about Ohio. I talked about Ohio politics, but in a podcast episode. But here I am doing a live stream, so you can all participate in the conversation. That's why I'm here in front of you, and I would appreciate your input. So, my friends, Ohio is what you may call a big Republican state. That's right. You got a Republican governor, two Republican U.S. senators, and obviously lots and lots and lots of Republican voters in the state of Ohio. Voters in Ohio, they believe in freedom. Voters in Ohio, they believe in liberty. They believe in opportunity. Voters in Ohio believe in having small government, an efficient bureaucracy, not a bloated bureaucracy, not a big government, small government. That is what the people of Ohio want. My friends, If you just want to recap a little bit, Ohio's recent political history, we're going to talk about that. What do you see? I mean, look at Ohio over the last 2-3 years. Over the last 2 years, what do you see? What happened in Ohio? J.D. Vance, who is our vice president, J.D. Vance used to be a U.S. Senator, a United States Senator from Ohio, right? Remember that? Remember that? Yeah. What position did J.D. Vance have before he became the vice president? What political office did he hold? He used to be a U.S. Senator. From which state? Ohio, right? And then, while J.D. Vance was a U.S. Senator, he was chosen by Donald J. Trump to be his running mate. I remember when that announcement came. It was breaking news. It was breaking news. All over the United States, all over the world, breaking news. Because leading up to that day, there were questions in people's minds. People wanted to know, okay, who is Donald Trump going to select as the running mate? Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Tim Scott? Is it going to be Glenn Youngkin? Is it going to be Kristi Noem? Is it going to be Marco Rubio? Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Vivek Ramaswamy? A lot of people thought that. Or is it going to be somebody we're not thinking about? Lots of questions, lots of speculation, and we talked about that on this channel, remember? Who remembers? We were talking about, we were trying to analyze all the different political figures, all the different potential candidates, like who is it going to be? Who is going to be chosen by Donald Trump to be the running mate? And then the announcement came that it would be J.D. Vance. So, okay, great. When J.D. Vance was selected to be the running mate, questions started popping up. Okay, what's going to happen to Vance's Senate seat? Well, then everyone looked at the governor, Governor DeWine. Everyone looked at the governor, the Republican governor in Ohio. And people started wondering, okay, what is the governor going to decide? Who is he going to appoint to that seat? Anyway, my friends, that vacancy after J.D. Vance became the vice president, that vacancy for his Senate seat, that vacancy resulted in lots of questions. Well, Governor Mike DeWine chose John Husted to fill that seat, and John Husted was appointed by the governor, and now he's serving in the United States Senate. I'm talking about John Husted, Republican, now a U.S. Senator, and he now has the seat that J.D. Vance originally had before the November 2024 election. Okay? So, my friends, that's one seat that we're talking about where John Husted is right now in Ohio. There are 2 U.S. Senate seats in every state. What about the other seat? What about the other seat? Two Senate seats. You got one in which John Husted is serving. What about the other one? That is the seat that Sherrod Brown, Democrat Sherrod Brown, okay? When I say Sherrod Brown, if you forgot who Sherrod Brown is, naturally you're going to be asking, all right, who are you talking about? Is this a Republican or a Democrat? Well, this is a Democrat. Sherrod Brown had the other. So J.D. Vance had a seat. Sherrod Brown had the other seat. U.S. Senate seat from Ohio. And then Something changed. But I'll get to that. First, you got to know that Democrat Sherrod Brown was in his Senate seat for many, many years. He served in the Senate for many years. Okay, and yes, even in a Republican state like Ohio, a Democrat had held on to a U.S. Senate seat for many years. And then came 2024. And you know what? In November 2024, Sherrod Brown was defeated. That's right. The 2024 general election, the same election in which we saw Donald J. Trump get elected to the office of the president again, that same election, Sherrod Brown was finally defeated by Republican Bernie Moreno. Okay? The victory in the Senate race made the 2024 election night even better. Remember the 2024 election night? People were paying attention to the presidential race, but there were other seats up for election. There were Senate seats, all the House seats. There were gubernatorial races. So when I say that we had a massive victory that night, I'm not just talking about the presidential race. I'm talking about the Senate races. I'm talking about House races. It was an amazing night. And one of the things that the Republicans won that night was the other Senate seat by defeating Sherrod Brown, Democrat. Bernie Moreno won. He had a victory. And what a great night it was. November 2024 election night. And you know what? That victory helped the Republicans secure a nice majority in the U.S. Senate. So you might say everything looks good. Everything looks good so far, right? Any more questions? Everything looks good? You got to wait patiently. You have to wait patiently because I have a lot more to say. Now in 2026. We're far away from 2024. November 2024 is gone. November 2025 is gone. This is 2026 we're talking about. My friends, if you're watching this, make sure you become a part of this community by subscribing. Also, make sure that you're showing your support for this channel by hitting the like button. Hit the like button. Share this video. Let your friends, family members, and your neighbors know about this channel. Invite them to join the conversation. So my friends, we're talking about 2026 now. 2026, this year, John Husted will be on the ballot to defend the Senate seat that he has. The Senate seat that he has because the Republican governor appointed him to that seat. John Husted on the ballot to defend the Senate seat as an incumbent, and guess who is running against him? Guess which Democrat is running against Republican John Husted? Now, if you listened to the podcast episode that I published in August of 2025, the podcast episode titled Battle in the Buckeye State, a Democrat's Attempt to Make a Political Comeback. Well, that will give you the information, and I think I've already given you the clue by mentioning political comeback. My friends, Sherrod Brown, who lost his Senate race to Bernie Moreno in November of 2024. Sherrod Brown is back, and he's running again And Sherrod Brown this time is challenging incumbent John Husted because Sherrod Brown wants to be back in the U.S. Senate. He wants his Senate seat back. He wants to be back in Congress after losing to Bernie Moreno. Sherrod Brown is back. And he's running against Republican John Husted. So one might say, Tossif. Sherrod Brown lost in 2024, right? He lost in 2024, so it seems like he doesn't have much of a chance of winning this time. He's probably going to lose again. He lost against Bernie Moreno. This time he's going to lose against John Husted. So do we need to talk about this? Tossif, you may be wasting our time by talking about this Senate race when there are so many other things to discuss. Why don't you discuss the Nipah virus? Why don't you talk about healthcare? Heard about that virus, the Nipah virus in Asia? Dangerous virus. People are taking precaution to prevent the spread of that virus. So you might say, Tossif, we got to talk about that virus. Some of you might say, Tossif, we got to talk about the California gubernatorial race. Maybe that's more important. Well, I will talk about it. I already have, but I will again. Some of you might say, Tossif, well, why don't you talk about what's going on in Washington right now? You know, there was this brief shutdown, and then the government's back open now for a couple days. What happened? Can you talk about it? Yeah. I mean, those are all important stuff. Some of you might say, Tossif, you got to focus on the gubernatorial race in New York. Yes, we will talk about that as well. But you know what? Right now, I need to talk about this U.S. Senate race in Ohio. And do not just draw a conclusion by saying, oh, Sherrod Brown lost against Bernie Moreno. Sherrod Brown's going to lose again against John Husted. So let's not talk about this. This is just, unnecessary discussion. My friends, that's what somebody might think when you're looking on the surface. But you know what? You have to dig deeper. You have to look at the political environment in Ohio. You have to look at the political dynamics. You have to analyze what's going on, and that's why I'm here. My friends, after being rejected by the Ohio voters, you might say Sherrod Brown is likely not to win again, right? Likely not to win again. Unlikely to win again. He is likely to lose again, right? But here's the issue. This man, this Democrat, the seasoned politician, this political figure, Sherrod Brown, who spent many years in Congress, he's raising a lot of money. He's raising a lot of money, and by a lot of money, I really mean a lot of money. Yeah, I'm not talking about, 200,000, 500,000, or $1 million. You might say, oh, Tossif, $1 million, that's a lot of money. No. It's much more than that. It's much more than that. I'm not talking about just $1 million here. It's a lot more than that. And that's the number that I'm going to share with you. And you're going to be so shocked. And some of you might say, how did we not know this? How did we not know this? This is what's going on in Ohio. Sherrod Brown raising massive sums of money after losing to Bernie Moreno in 2024. Sherrod Brown wants to make a political comeback, running against John Husted. He's raising so much money. It's unbelievable. What in the world is going on? Why isn't more people talking about this. I'm going to give you the information. You stay here with me. This man, Sherrod Brown, he's raising a lot of campaign money, and I'll share with you the data. But before that, I just want to say one thing. I just want to say that in an election nowadays, especially in a high-profile statewide race, like a gubernatorial race or a U.S. Senate race, in a high-profile race, fundraising does matter. Money is a real thing. Money is a real thing. And it does make a lot of difference in an election. Now, money does not determine victory. That I understand, that you agree with also. I think many of you agree with it when I say this. Money does not make the final determination about who's going to win, who's going to lose. Money does not decide the winners and losers. Money is not everything, but money does have a very strong impact, because if you are a political candidate, you're going to need money for TV ads, you're going to need money for radio ads, you're going to need money for social media strategy, how to reach voters through social media, to come up with those ideas and to implement those ideas. You're going to need money. You're going to be needing to hire consultants and advisors and strategists. If your campaign is producing yard signs, you're going to need money for that. If your campaign is hiring staff and traveling all over the state, you're going to need money for hiring personnel and for travel and a lot more. So what I'm trying to say is, it's the obvious. Money matters in an election. Money does matter, because even if you have the greatest ideas, even if you have found the solutions to the problems affecting our society, if you have political solutions, policy solutions, you're going to need money to get the word out. You're going to need money to amplify your voice. You're going to need money to do those ads, to travel to those events where you're talking to hundreds and thousands of people. You're going to need money for all that. So fundraising does matter. How much money is a campaign able to accumulate, raise? How do you reach out to the donors to raise money? All of that matters. Now I'm going to share with you some numbers that you're going to find shocking. I did. Some fundraising numbers that I'm going to share with you. In the final quarter of 2025, that's right. What is the final quarter? It's from October the 1st to December the 31st of 2025. Can anyone tell me how much money John Husted, the Republican, raised? Can anyone tell me? Go ahead. I'm going to give you some time, maybe a minute, maybe half a minute. Go ahead. Go ahead. Write it in the live chat. The live chat is open. Go right ahead. How much money did John Husted raise in the final quarter of 2025? Go ahead. Throw a number. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. Don't ask AI. You know, some people, whenever they have a question, they like asking AI for an answer. Artificial intelligence. They ask the question, and AI gives you an answer. Listen, for this case, don't ask AI. Don't ask AI. Just write your best guess. Make it serious, like someone's writing $1. No, not $1. Someone's writing a peso and all that. Listen. Write meaningful answers. Okay, Jay over here is writing $1 million. Okay, that's a great guess. $1 million. Be serious, like Jay. Others. Jay made the guess that John Husted raised $1 million. Now let's see what the others say. Okay, W is saying 5 million. Okay, but you're writing foreign currency. No, this is in US dollars, all right? No foreign currency here. And don't try 25 cents, $1. I mean, just listen. We got to stop the trolling so that the meaningful conversation can continue. We got a Buckeye over here. Ohio in the house. All right, awesome. All right, go ahead. K. Cooper is writing 1 million. All right, I'm going to give you the answer. John Husted, the incumbent Republican, he's the U.S. Senator right now. He has the seat that J.D. Vance once had. Okay, so John Husted, in the fourth quarter of 2025, John Husted raised just over $1.5 million. Just over $1.5 million, all right? I'm not giving you the exact figure by the dollar. I'm just giving you an approximation, just over $1.5 million. So that's between October the 1st and December the 31st of 2025, okay? Now, what's your reaction? Now that I've told you that in 3 months, John Husted raised $1.5 million. Are you going to say, oh, that's great. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that is well beyond my imagination? Or will you say, yeah, that's fair. That's all right. Should have raised more money. Why 1.5 million? Should be a lot more, maybe 2, maybe 3. Could have done better. What are you going to say? Would you grade that as great fundraising numbers, or are you going to say, no, that's not good enough? Anyone, go ahead. Okay, someone's saying it's weak. All right, you're saying it's weak. All right, weak fundraising. That's what you're saying. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, Salerno is saying not good enough. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone thinks it's great? No? Okay. Listen. In order to figure out, okay, somebody said 1.5 is fine. All right. Okay. So I'm getting mixed opinions here. Someone's saying it's weak. Someone's saying it's not that great. Someone's saying it's fine. Listen, you have to look at it. Okay, K. Cooper says, I think it was good. All right, great. Kay has a different opinion. K. Cooper is saying that she thinks it's good. Okay. Now, how do you determine if it's good or bad? I mean, it's going to vary, right? I mean, are you looking at, let's say it's a California Senate race. California, big state, a lot of people with a lot of money, massive state, big population. What you would consider good fundraising in California only applies to California. Rhode Island, on the other hand, very small state. Very small state. Now, you cannot compare Rhode Island's numbers, fundraising numbers for Senate race, with California's, because California is a massive state, has a lot of wealthy people in the state, so it's going to vary. If you go to Montana, it's going to look different. If you go to Mississippi, it's going to look different. Florida, once again, a lot of people with a lot of money, it's going to look different. So you always have to look at these numbers in context. And you have to compare the numbers with the numbers coming from the opposition. So when I say John Husted raised over $1.5 million in 3 months, okay, we saw mixed numbers. Someone saying not fine, someone saying great. But how does that compare to Sherrod Brown's fundraising numbers? Okay? I mean, before you draw a conclusion about whether it's good or not, you have to hear about how much money Sherrod Brown, Democrat, raised during that exact same period. So you can do an apples to apples comparison. You're not going to be looking at, all right, I'm going to look at the fourth quarter from John Husted, and I'm going to look at, a different set of months for Sherrod Brown. No, the exact same quarter. When John Husted raised $1.5 million, do you know how much Sherrod Brown raised? How much money did Sherrod Brown raise? How much money did he raise during that same period? Anyone? Go ahead. I know I'm asking you to make lots of guesses, but let's make it interactive. If I'm the only one sharing information, it gets to be boring. So I want to interact. So John Husted raised 1.5 million. How much did Sherrod Brown raise for that same period of time? Danny is saying 5 million. All right, Danny. Danny's saying 5 million for Sherrod Brown. Okay. Anyone else? Someone's saying 25 million. Wow, that's a big number. In 3 months, 25 million? Wow. All right, but thanks for making the guess. Let's see. Anyone else? Salerno is saying 4 million. Okay. Let me give you the number. So, fourth quarter of 2025, John Husted raised 1.5 million. And Sherrod Brown, get ready for this. This is a Democrat. Sherrod Brown, he raised 7.3 million. In fact, more than that. He raised $7.3 million. Oh my God. I don't know what to say. 1.5 versus 7.3. What's your reaction? What's your reaction to this? Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable? Would you say that? Salerno is saying unbelievable. Is Salerno the only one? Well, I also say unbelievable. Are we the only ones? Anyone else out there thinks it's unbelievable, but you know what? These numbers are real. Go ahead. Share your thoughts with me. Tommy Brown's here. Tommy Brown, good to see you. I don't know how to react other than telling you the truth, which is I'm speechless. I saw these numbers and I'm like, this can't be real. This can't be real, but it is. John Husted raised $1.5 million versus Sherrod Brown, Democrat, raising more than $7.3 million. My friends, understand one thing very clearly. Understand one thing very, very clearly. Our future is on the line here. Our future is at stake. Our liberty, our freedom, everything is on the line. We, the Republicans, we cannot lose control of the United States Senate. We cannot lose the majority in the U.S. Senate. We, the Republicans, we cannot lose Senate seats. We cannot accept the possibility that we'll lose the Ohio Senate race. I don't even want to think about it. No one wants to think about it. It's going to be a horrible situation politically if you see that we lost that seat in Ohio. If Sherrod Brown is able to make a comeback, if he's able to defeat John Husted, it is going to be devastating for Ohio. It is going to be devastating for the United States of America. And it's going to be quite devastating for the MAGA agenda, for the America First agenda. We cannot even imagine the Democrats winning seats and taking control of the Senate. My friends, John Husted must win. John Husted must win. But I'm very, very shocked seeing the fundraising numbers and the difference, and truly worried that the Democrat candidate Sherrod Brown has raised a lot more money than Republican John Husted. So the Democrat outraised the Republican incumbent in the last quarter of 2025, and that also by a big margin. And that's not all. That is not all. You also have to look at the cash on hand numbers also. Not just how much was raised. You already have money, and then you raise more, and then you spend. How much do you have on hand? And those are the numbers I'm going to share with you now. At the end of December 2025, John Husted had more than $5.9 million on hand. That's right, $5.9 million. That's what John Husted had at the end of December 2025. $5.9 million. While Democrat Sherrod Brown had almost close to $9.9 million on hand. Once again, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to react. That's a big difference. End of December 2025, John Husted had more than $5.9 million on hand, while Democrat Sherrod Brown had close to $9.9 million. So 5.9, 9.9, huge difference. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? The situation is quite difficult, my friends. The Democrats are really motivated out there, and they are gaining advantage in various jurisdictions. And my friends, let me tell you, we the Republicans, we have to get active. We the Republicans, we cannot afford to lose. We cannot afford to lose in Ohio. We cannot afford to lose the majority in the Senate. Ohio is a favorable state for us. If you are a Republican, you're looking at Ohio, it's a favorable state for the Republicans. And yet, incumbent Republican U.S. Senator John Husted is falling behind in fundraising. At least that is the conclusion we can draw based on the recent numbers. And Democrat challenger Sherrod Brown is raising a lot of money. One thing I will point out, one thing that I believe must be pointed out, Sherrod Brown cannot be underestimated. Sherrod Brown spent many years in the Senate, 18 years in the Senate for Sherrod Brown, so he's an experienced political figure. And after losing to Bernie Moreno, Sherrod Brown decided to jump right back into politics. It might seem like a hasty decision, but I don't think it is. I think Sherrod Brown knows what he is doing. He's an experienced politician, a politician with poor ideas, Democrat, left wing, a politician with poor ideas. But you cannot deny the fact that he is very experienced in politics, very seasoned. He has won elections in the past, and the most recent one he lost, but he knows what he is doing. So Sherrod Brown actively working to defeat John Husted, actively working to raise a lot more money than John Husted. And so that's why I think the Republicans will have to take this race very, very seriously. The Republicans will have to do better in fundraising. They have to have a solid strategy to win. They have to defend the seat and defeat Sherrod Brown again in 2026. Right now, real clear polling would show that Husted is ahead, but just by 1 percentage point. So Sherrod Brown is at 47.5 and John Husted is at 48.5 according to real clear polling. Of course, individually, different polls will show different results. As of now, overall, the race does lean Republican. It is not a solid Republican. It leans Republican. It leans to the red, towards the red. But some might also call it a toss-up. Some might say, oh, you know what? It's not a lean red, lean blue. It's a toss-up. And it very well may be a toss-up. So, my friends, attention to the Ohio Republicans, be more active, focus more on fundraising, focus more on grassroots organizing. Republicans in Ohio, you got to do this. Focus on grassroots organizing, focus on outreach, focus on getting the yard signs out there. Focus on a lot of in-person events, big events where the Republican candidates for different races and seats so that they can gain some advantage. Reach out to more and more people. Statewide candidate John Husted must be out there, interacting with the public, being out there, making his presence known, listening to the voters directly. John Husted and his team, they have a lot of work to do because we cannot lose this Senate seat, my friends. John Husted must win. Here in Wisconsin, what do political candidates do? They do parades. They go to farm breakfasts. They go to the different festivals, different fairs that we have in Wisconsin. If you're looking to come into contact with the voters, if you're looking to do great outreach and meet with people, talk to people, you have to attend events where you're going to see many members of the general public. So, like art fairs, breakfast on the farm. Many counties in Wisconsin, they have farm breakfasts, usually in June Dairy Month. Parades, 4th of July parades will be coming up soon. So John Husted, I don't know what the strategy is in Ohio, but John Husted has to do better fundraising, better outreach, and meet with people, talk with people, make himself known. I mean, Sherrod Brown has the advantage that he served for 18 years in the Senate. So people know Sherrod Brown. He's been around a really long time. And now he's coming back, trying to retake a Senate seat. But John Husted, he's fairly new as a U.S. Senator, so he has to actively work to get his name out there, to build up that name recognition. So, my friends, I just wanted to point that out. I think Ohio is extremely important, and we have to win that Senate race, and I hope that we do. The fundraising numbers are not looking good, but there's time. There's time. This is just February 2026. There's a lot of time going forward before we get to the election. So I hope that Sherrod Brown loses again. I hope John Husted defeats Sherrod Brown, just like Bernie Moreno defeated Sherrod Brown. So those are my thoughts, my friends. That's all I have for now. I don't have anything further to add at this time. So, yeah. But I'm going to be back again with more videos and more live stream. So thank you so very much, my friends. May God bless you all. May God bless President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the Republicans in Washington. And also, may God bless the Republican candidates running for office. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom-loving people all over the world. Thank you so very much for watching. Have a great night. I'm going to be back again very soon. Thank you.